World War II weapons and strategies. During World War II, both the Allies and the Axis designed, produced, and used advanced weapons and strategies in their efforts to be the best and win the war. These advanced weapons and strategies were important to the battles that were fought in the air, on the land, and on the sea. There were thousands of weapons used in World War II. These weapons included handguns, rifles, rocket launchers, also known as bazookas, aircraft bombers, flamethrowers, and the ultimate weapon, the atomic bomb. Here are some examples of the different kinds of weapons used. Pistols were easy to handle guns and were able to be drawn out of their holsters very quickly. One such handgun was the Josenti model 1910. It was a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. It was used in both World Wars. Another was the Beretta M1934, which was used primarily by the Italian forces. Rifles and other long-range weapons were used for targets that were farther away. The M1941 Johnson rifle was semi-automatic and could easily be reloaded by inserting a new clip. It also had a bayonet for hand-to-hand combat. Another long-range weapon was called the M1 bazooka. General Dwight D. Eisenhower considered it a star weapon and one of the reasons the Allies won the war. The bazooka was a rocket launcher that could defend against enemy tanks and even planes. It could also blow up fortified positions. We have a short video to share that demonstrates the use of the bazooka.
One of the most celebrated infantry support weapons of World War II was the American bazooka. Officially known as the M1 rocket launcher, the weapon was operated by a two-man team and fired a fin-stabilized projectile with a shaped charged warhead. The bazooka was designed as an anti-tank weapon, but could be used with equally devastating results against pillboxes and fortified positions. Nearly 500,000 bazookas were produced during the war, and the weapon provided the inspiration for the German Panzerschreck.
The war was also fought at sea. During World War II, battleships became huge targets which lessened their usefulness. They proved to be no match for the fighter planes. In fact, the U.S. entered the war after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, destroying or damaging 8 U.S. battleships. That is an illustration of what Pearl Harbor might have looked like. As a result, aircraft carriers became the main warships. They could make counterattacks against enemy forces and served as a base of operation for the aircraft that was being used to fight most of the battles at sea. Submarines were also useful weapons. They were used to fire torpedoes at enemy ships. The U.S. Navy sank over 30% of Japan's navy using submarines. One of the most useful and effective weapons of World War II were the various airplanes. As I said earlier, the U.S. entered the war after the Japanese used planes to attack at Pearl Harbor. There were 3 major types of planes: fighters, bombers, and transport planes. Fighter planes were used in air-to-air combat because they were fast and agile. Their primary use was to gain the advantage on the battlefield. Bombers were larger planes that were designed to carry and drop bombs on enemy targets. Transport planes carried troops and supplies to different parts of the world. Many times troops would parachute out of the planes to get behind enemy lines. The ultimate weapon was the atomic bomb. You can see a picture here of the bomb known as Fat Boy. There is also one known as Little Boy. Little Boy was dropped on Hiroshima, Japan on August 6, 1945 by an American B-29 bomber. The explosion destroyed 9% of the city and killed over 80,000 people. Fat Boy was dropped on the city of Nagasaki, Japan just a few days later. An additional 40,000 people were killed. Japan had finally had enough and surrendered on August 15, 1945 due to the devastating power of a new and most cruel bomb. This link will take us to a short video of the atomic bomb explosion. the Axis used various strategies to gain an advantage and win the war. Every move that was made and the different uses of these weapons we have talked about today were a part of the war strategy. Here are a few specific examples of different strategies used by the Allied and Axis forces. The bombing of Pearl Harbor was a strategy used by the Japanese with the purpose of taking out several U.S. battleships and cripple our navy. The Japanese also used kamikaze fighters to crash their planes into enemy ships. 2,500 Japanese pilots gave their life for their country in these missions and reportedly killed over 3,000 enemy troops. They also destroyed or damaged multiple ships in the process. The Soviet Union used anti-tank dogs to carry bombs up to enemy tanks and blow them up. Here's an illustration of one of the dogs. Dogs were not known as the enemy and could walk or run right up to the tanks before anyone could notice that they were carrying a bomb. After this strategy became well known, German troops were ordered to shoot any dog they saw on the battlefield. German forces, as well as Allied forces, were also known to blow up dams in order to flood low-lying areas. This would cut off the enemy and give them the advantage. Blitzkrieg was a strategy used by the Germans that relied on the element of surprise. They would use all of the ground forces, tanks, and fighter planes to attack by force and speed. The enemy was usually unprepared for the attack, and this method was so successful that the Allied forces began to do the same thing. Finally, the atomic bomb was developed by the U.S. and put an end to the war. Its effective use and threat of future use resulted in the surrender of Japan and ended World War II. We hope you have enjoyed our presentation. That's all, folks.